y'all. Welcome to another episode of Get Up 10. And this episode is really special for me today because it's something that I have been waiting patiently for months now to release and to just talk about. So today I'm going to share about the legal aftermath of separation, of domestic violence. So I'm going to talk about my journey of what I went through after I chose to leave my abusive marriage and what all that looked like. This is not an episode for legal advice. I'm no expert when it comes to the law. I probably don't even have the right terminology in this episode. But I really wanted to take time and outline my story and just share some advice that I wish I had gotten earlier, because I don't think that this is something we hear about. You know, people get married, people get divorced, and literally I got my marriage license and got married in the same day. But this separation process has been 3 years in the making. And through that, I have met other people that have gone through similar circumstances, although each and every case is very individual and personal. However, there's certain commonalities that I've heard as I've shared my story and heard other people's stories. And so that's where I come from when I give advice, just to somebody who is going through it, what I would say to them. And as for everything, maybe this is not for you, but maybe it's for one of your friends. Maybe it's for your sister or your best friend who's going through it. If you know somebody who needs the contents of this episode, do not hesitate to share it, to encourage them. And yeah, not as always, I can't say that yet. It's only been a couple of weeks, but if you are feeling generous, or if you need some encouragement, may I suggest that you buy a copy of my book. The link will be in the show notes. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into this week's episode of Get Up 10, all about the legal aftermath of domestic violence. Oh, sorry, just kidding. Also, shout out Coach Rocky, because when I recorded this episode, I was live on social media and trying to record on my computer all at the same time, and the recording got all messed up, so I had to pull this audio from Instagram. So hopefully it's not terrible. And yeah, shout out to Coach Rocky for walking me through how to even do that. But we did it. Here we are. So I wanted to give credit where credit is due, because I'm always going to say thank you and always going to, shout people out, give people their flowers while they're alive. So yeah, now we could get into it. Hey guys, I'm so excited for this conversation today. We're going to get into it. I have been wanting to share this conversation for months now, and finally the time has come. So without further ado, let's get into it. And before I start, I just want to say that I'm not offering legal advice today. This is not that. This is me sharing my experience and just giving y'all some advice and some tips, some things that I wish I had known going through the process. And today I really wanted to be on point with what I'm talking about, so I do have my notes. So we're gonna flow with that today. And it's 3 pages of notes because I write kind of big, and I wanted to make sure that I went back all the way to the beginning. So guys, this is also very much my testimony. God showed up and showed out for me throughout this whole entire legal process, throughout going to court. And so I wanted to make sure that I share this story because he deserves all the glory. And also, I'm sure somebody is going to get something from it. Hopefully somebody will be encouraged by it. Hopefully nobody listening has to ever go through what I went through. But if you have, or you're going through it now, or you're going to go through it in the future, I got you. So that's that. And also, you might be wondering, oh my God, you just got divorced last week. Why are you still functioning? Why are you still talking? However, I want to make very clear that my healing process has been processing. The journey has been journeying. So I got married in 2020, January of 2020. And I left in August of 2020, 2 months after having my daughter, because I just got my sense back and realized that this relationship was very unhealthy. Matter of fact, it was abusive. And I had to be very clear on, I couldn't just say that I was in a toxic relationship, because I've been in toxic relationships before. It is what it is. I think even toxic relationships, y'all could do your healing work and get back together, but abusive relationships is like another level. And so I had to use that language with myself just to make it clear in my mind, like, how serious this is, and no, we can't just go back. So like I said, I got married in January of 2020. I left in August of 2020. And after that, I personally felt like I grieved the death of my marriage. I grieved my relationship status in October of 2020. I just remember I was at a park and it was a gloomy day. I was sitting in the parking lot and I just let myself feel the feelings, and I just knew, okay, like, I'm grieving today. And that was that. That was back in October of 2020. And after that, so to end off 2020 and in the beginning of 2021, if you didn't notice, I was not on social media. I barely was on social media. Like, I'm not sure if I deactivated my accounts or I just left them up and wasn't posting, but I definitely took a step back because I couldn't handle it. It was too much for what I was going through at the time. And also, another time that I stepped back from social media was in 2020 while I was in my abusive relationship. And I thank God for that, because I literally don't know what I would have been posting during that time. I was really going through so much suffering. I was not mentally healthy. And so the Ginger that you know, who's smiling, bubbly, and positive, I'm not sure if I would have been showing up online as her during that time. On top of being pregnant, there was a lot going on. So for those reasons, because I did step back a couple years ago and I have been very proactive about my healing journey, that's why 1 week, not even a week, actually no, today makes a week after my divorce, I'm able to be here, keep it moving, and keep on talking, because I'm good. I'm so excited. This is so exciting for me, and I'm gonna get into why at the end. But yeah, okay. So let's talk about my timeline with the legal system and domestic violence. First of all, I want to say that when it comes to domestic violence and leaving, a lot of the responsibility falls on the victim. It falls on the survivor, as I like to say. And that's just the unfortunate truth, because the abuser is not going to go turn himself or herself, and they're not going to, I don't know, they might use the legal system to like taunt you, but as far as like taking responsibility and being proactive, they're just not going to do that. That's just not in their personality type, at least not in my case. So anyways, I also wanted to say that after I left my abusive relationship, I did turn to, actually no, before I say this. So I left my abuser in August of 2020, and then after that, it's my daughter's father, so I wanted to co-parent to the best of my abilities. However, I moved back in with my parents, and my parents were not trying to have him in our house, and rightfully so. And he didn't have his own place. So for us to meet up, for him to see his kid, we were meeting up at a public place. So we would meet at a mall. And the first times it was fine. He was still like kind of affectionate towards me. And it honestly made me cringe and made me very uncomfortable. He would tell me, like, you still my wife, right? I still love you. And, like, give me a kiss on the cheek or something. And inside, I was like, please don't touch me. Like, please don't come near me. And I remember, like, another time we met up so he could see his kid. And it turned into an argument. And so one time it turned into an argument. I was able to walk away, because you're not about to make me argue with you in public. I was able to walk away, no problem. And then this other time, and the last time, he started an argument, but he wouldn't back down. Like, I was walking through the mall, pushing my stroller, tears flowing down my face. Like, I was visibly upset. And he continued to argue with me and follow me
towards the exit of the mall. It was to the point where I was like, I need to call security or I need to call the police. Like, I'm not okay. I'm not safe right now. And I remember, I think he finally like stepped away, but I was afraid to walk to my car because I didn't know what he was going to do. And I ended up calling a friend on FaceTime just to have a witness because I didn't know what he was going to do. And I was so happy that I made that phone call because as soon as I got to my car, my daughter's father pulled up, like, brand new person. Like, he wasn't just cursing me out in the mall and was like, oh, you need help putting the baby away in the car? And I was like, no, like, leave me alone, get away from me. And I'm so happy that I had a friend on my phone while that was going on. And that really opened my eyes to the fact that even though I left him, even though I left our home, even though I separated myself, I was still experiencing domestic violence. And I encourage you to look up the definition of domestic violence because it goes much further than you getting beat on. It's so much deeper than that. It's so much more than that. It has a lot to do with fear and intimidation, power, control. And I was very much still experiencing that, even just trying to co-parent. And so at that point, I finally realized, like, okay, I'm gonna need some more resources. And that is when I made two decisions. One, I decided to find a therapist, and two, I started to reach out to my local domestic violence center. And so I initially did join the support group through my local domestic violence center, but you have to know yourself. And for me personally, that group was not for me. It was not helping me through my process. I felt like the other people in that group were very much kind of going through it and down. And that's completely understandable. Domestic violence is not easy to go through, especially when you have children involved. It's not easy, and I get it. But for me personally, I'm like, I'm a go-getter. We got to get back up. So I'm like, okay, like, we got to have hope. We got to have positivity. We got to keep moving forward. And that just wasn't the tone of the group or the other people. So I made the personal decision to step back from that support group. And I did find a therapist. We started working together. And again, you have to know yourself. You have to trust your gut, that inner voice and everything. So for me, this therapist, we started working together, and I wasn't feeling like there was much value being added from the sessions. She kept asking me, like, so do you want to get back together with your daughter's father? And I was like, no. Why are you asking me that? And she was like, oh, well, I didn't say why you asking me that, but in my head, that's what I said. She was like, it's normal if you want to get back together with your abuser. That's very normal. And I'm thinking, like, ma'am, I do not. We're moving forward. That's going back is not an option. She kept asking me that. I didn't understand why. So again, I know myself. I made the decision to cut that relationship professionally because it's not helping me. And then through Facebook groups, I was able to find my current therapist, who I have been working with for the last almost 2 years now, and I've seen so much growth working with her, and I just adore her and have the utmost respect for her. So yeah, all right, so let's get into the legal timeline of what I went through after I left, actually even before I left. So if you don't know my story, I am a domestic violence survivor. In May of 2020, I got into an argument while I was pregnant with my at the time husband, and the argument was getting real spicy. There was a lot of tension in the house, and I told myself, like, if this turns physical, I am calling the police. Well, it turned physical, so I called the police, and they came, and I decided to write a report. And so after that, it's crazy because after that is very much a blur. It was such an emotional, crazy day, traumatic day. Afterwards, I ended up going to my doctor to check on my baby. And this story is in my book as well. But I'm not focusing on my marriage too much today. I'm focusing more so on the legal aftermath because we don't talk about that. We don't hear about that, but it's very much a part of the process. So anyways, call 911, ambulance comes, police comes. They tell me to go check the baby out. I didn't want to go to the hospital because it was during COVID times. fortunately, my doctor was able to see me right away to check on the baby. So I did, and baby was good. Well, actually, they were concerned. I'm not gonna lie. I became a high-risk pregnancy because honestly, I had a really stressful night, hadn't slept a lot, had not eaten a lot, was dehydrated, and so that just made my labs look crazy. And so I immediately got labeled a high-risk pregnancy. And after that, so they let me go home. I get some food. I'm happy that I am in the house by myself, and my house had become there was so much tension and bad energy in it. And so once he left, it was just me in my house alone, and I was relieved. So I remember like setting up stuff. I locked the door. I barricaded it with some stuff because I was by myself and pregnant, and I just had such a traumatic day. And so yeah, friends were calling to check on me, and I finally decided to get some rest. And right as I'm about to get some rest, he walks through the door with his sons, and that was crazy. But anyway, so the next day my parents had drove down to North Carolina to be with me, and I'm out with my mom. We're just like running some errands, going shopping or whatever, and I get a call from the detective, and he lets me know that they have decided to press charges. And I was like shocked because honestly, the way my brain was in the moment, I forgot that I decided to fill out a police report and all that. So when I got the call that they were going to press charges, I was like, oh shoot, I forgot about that. And so being still committed to my marriage at the time, I decided to call him and I decided to call my daughter's father and let him know that they were putting a warrant out for his arrest so that he wouldn't be caught by surprise and that he could turn himself in, and he did. And then also, as part of the legal processes in this state, there was a no contact order until our first court appearance. And so after he turned himself in, he still didn't want to come back home because he felt like he couldn't trust me, it wasn't safe. He didn't want no issues with the no contact order. So he stayed outside of our home, and I was just trying to tell him like, no, like we're good, like let's come back home, like I'm not gonna do that to you. Because while he was spending the night in jail, he had his coming to Jesus moment and was like, I love you, I want to be married to you, blah blah blah, let's move forward. So I was like, what are you doing? Like, now you're out of jail and you were acting real shady. Like, I mean, I got it, but at the same time, I didn't get it. Because I'm like, if you really wanted to move forward, you would be home right now. So he turns himself in. He got out like the next day or something. He wasn't home. So he had me calling the district attorney's office to try to get the no contact order dropped. Because at this point, I'm going to have the baby in a couple days. And I wanted the father of my daughter to be present for her birth. So I'm trying to call the DA to get them to drop this no contact order, which was a headache. I think we did get it dropped. And then so after that, in June of 2020, that's when I gave birth to my daughter. And then in August 2020 is when I left because I realized that I was in an abusive relationship. And so between August 2020 up until early 2021, I attempted to co-parent with him. And like I said earlier, I realized that by attempting to co-parent and meeting up with him so that he could see our daughter, I was still experiencing and exposing myself to domestic violence because he was just starting arguments and I just didn't feel safe. He was still making threats and all this kind of stuff. So that's when I decided to reach out to my local domestic violence center in January of 2021. And so they asked me like if I had an order of protection, which at this point I didn't, because if you remember, I asked for the no contact orders to be dropped so that he could be there for the birth of our daughter. So at this point, I did not have an order of protection in place. However, through co-parenting, I was still experiencing domestic violence, but because he didn't actually like do anything, we were just having arguments and he was making threats. We didn't have, the lawyer that I had consulted didn't feel like we had much of a case for me to ask for a new order of protection at the time. So we didn't get a new order of protection, but I did have the police report from our initial altercation where I did call 911. And even the process to get a lawyer through the domestic violence center was kind of long, because I thought I was just gonna like call him up and talk to a lawyer like the same day, but it doesn't work like that. So I reached out to them, I gave them my information, I told them I needed legal help, and then after that I get a call from like a secretary or administrative assistant who took down all my information, and then it was like, okay, the lawyer will call you in a couple days. So it just was a long drawn out process to even acquire legal help. So because I knew like I wanted a order of protection, because I moved back in with my family, and my daughter's father made threats towards the males in my family. He made threats of physical violence towards my father and my brothers. So since I'm living with my father and my brothers, I wanted an order of protection, because I didn't want to chance him pulling up on my house one day. But the lawyer didn't feel like I had a strong enough case for that, so I didn't get a new one. And then I knew that I was going to have to start the separation process legally at some point, if attaining custody, starting the divorce process, getting child support. I knew like all of that was coming down the pipeline, but I was trying to hold off on it because I knew that it wasn't going to be fun. So anyways, in April of 2021 is when the court appearance for me calling 911 back in May of 2020 was scheduled for. And at this point, I've come to terms that I was in an abusive relationship, and this man put his hands on a pregnant woman, and I'm not having the mercy anymore of, yeah, we're married, it's fine. No, you abused me, I want justice. So I'm calling North Carolina legal system, trying to find out, do I need to appear in court or not? Nobody's picking up their phones. It's going to voicemail. It's going to, oh, you need to call this person, you need to call that person. It's days before the court date, and I'm still haven't gotten a clear answer on whether I'm supposed to appear in court or not. So I called the domestic violence center in North Carolina, and they were like, honestly, they usually do want you to show up, but in your case, if you're able to explain to them the circumstances, you know, you have a newborn, it's COVID, you're out of state, they might be able to work with you. So the day of the court date for the assault on female charges against my daughter's father, I do get a hold of somebody from the court, and I'm telling her, like, I do want to press charges. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but, you know, at least like anger management or something. Like, I just don't want him to get away with what he did to me. Like, I just want something. And she was like, yeah, okay, I'll definitely present that to the judge. And so I hang up the phone. I'm feeling so relieved, like I'm gonna get justice, which was so big to me at this point in my journey. Fast forward to the next day or so, nothing happened. Because I did not appear in court, they did not press any charges, and there was no consequences for his actions. And I was devastated, because if they had communicated better with me, I would have made an attempt to be in court. But there was just such a terrible lack of clear communication. So I was really devastated when I heard that he just got to walk off free, and there would be no consequences to him putting his hands on me other than the night that he spent in jail. But honestly, now that I'm looking back, I think that was God, because I had also begun the process of selling our home, and I needed him to sign some papers since we were legally married. And I think because he was in a good mood, because he didn't get any consequences for his actions, he signed the papers, no problem. And I think that if court hadn't gone his way that morning, he probably would have been a lot more hesitant to sign those papers. So in the end, I think that was God's providence. And so fast forward now a couple months later to June 2021, a few weeks before June, somebody rang my doorbell one day, but I was like in the bathroom taking a shower or something. So my dad answered the door, and they asked for me, and he let them know that I was unavailable, and they left. And so I realized that that was me about to get served. And I was like devastated. I was so upset. I'm like, Dad, I couldn't come to the door. Like, why did you tell him? Like, now I don't know when they're gonna come. I just like started freaking out. And my dad, who's very like even keel, was just like, they're gonna come back at some point. You know, what does it matter if they come today or another day? Like, it's just like, essentially just like, calm down. Like, you getting emotional is not helping the situation. And he was right, even though I did not want to receive that in my emotional moment. Anyways, so June 2021 rolls around. It's my daughter's first birthday. I'm so excited to celebrate my kid. We made it 1 year of motherhood, 1 year of life. And so I decided to invite my daughter's father to the zoo with us so he could be there for his daughter's birthday. And he rolls up with his cousin. Red flag, okay? I never met his cousin. I just heard about him. He rolls up with his cousin. I'm like, okay, whatever. So right before they get ready to leave, his cousin goes to the car and gets an envelope. My pure heart is thinking, oh, that's our daughter's birthday present. But my daughter's father is like, nah, like, don't promise me you won't open that right now. I'm like, what you mean I won't open this right now? And I opened it up, and his cousin had served me. My daughter's father had filed not only for visitation, but for custody as well. Happy birthday. That was such a traumatic experience for me. It really stole the joy of the occasion for me. I went from celebrating my daughter's birthday to in tears, couldn't even think straight, just so hurt that he would do that on such a day. So that happened. So at this point, I'm like, okay, let me start looking for a lawyer because I'm gonna need one. And so we get some recommendations from family friends. So I went to a local lawyer that had a really good reputation, and I give the lawyer the papers, I give her my police report, I tell her what I want, and she's like, okay, well, you know that I've seen the court just give kids to fathers. Basically just telling me like everything that could go wrong in my situation. And I was so discouraged. I left her office in tears. I felt like she wasn't hearing me. I literally felt like, okay, well, maybe I wasn't abused enough, because if I had some like hardcore abuse stuff on file, like maybe things would be more in my favor. Like, that's literally how I left her office feeling. It was so sad. I went to my local domestic violence center as well for legal help, but they didn't feel like they could help me because my daughter's father filed in a different county. So I went to the domestic violence resources for the county that the court case was filed in, and they couldn't help me because I didn't live in the county. Fine. So then I found a local college that was actually is a neighboring county where the case was in court, and they were phenomenal. They made it clear that they also could not help me because I didn't live in their county, and due to their grant requirements, they couldn't take my case on. But they did everything in their power to give me information, to give me strategies, resources. Like, literally, they did so much for me for not even taking me on as a client. They followed up with me. They made sure I was okay. They were looking stuff up for me. Like, they just went above and beyond. And it just proved to me that, like, all lawyers are not the same, and you literally have to find the one that is for you, the one that works well with you. And so that was really encouraging for me. So the day comes to go to court, and we go to court. It's virtual because of COVID. And I remember sitting in my bedroom, and I had to be upfront with the judge and tell them, like, I'm not comfortable with my daughter's father having custody of our child. He does not have a stable living environment. I was abused. I do not feel comfortable with my daughter like being in the address that he stays at. And it was really hard for me to say that. Like, I was literally shaking as I'm talking to the judge. But I spoke my truth. I had to say that. I had to be upfront and honest. Otherwise, they don't know that. So the judge ends up ruling for that point in time that he was gonna send whoever to check out the address where my daughter's father had listed to see was it a safe environment for our child or not, and that he was going to order supervised visitation for our daughter, which I was in agreement with, and that's what I wanted. So my daughter's father gets supervised visitation. We set that up. We have 1 or 2 visits, and then he shows up. They go just fine. And that was hard. It's hard to give your baby away to some stranger, and you gotta sit in a room and just wait for the time to be up. That was hard. But anyway, so at this point, I think I had given him the paperwork to appear. I had a family friend also serve him the paperwork to appear in court for the child support hearings at this point, and because I knew where he was going to be. And also, so he had 2 visits with his supervised visits with our daughter. They went just fine. And then we have our next court appearance for his request for custody and visitation, and he didn't show up. And so at this point, the court had appointed our daughter a lawyer. So it was me, my daughter's lawyer, and the judge. My daughter's father never showed up. And so I'll never forget these words as long as I live. My daughter's lawyer said, "Your Honor, on behalf of my client and her mother, I'm asking for this case to be dismissed." So that was it. He didn't get custody. He didn't get visitation. And the supervised visitation that had been ordered was now void because he didn't show up to court. So at this point, the ball is in my court. We already have the child support in motion, and I filed for custody because our daughter has always lived with me anyways, and I knew that that was the right move for me to go ahead and pursue custody. And so I was gonna say something else. Oh yeah, so when it came to the child support, I was like, I had mixed feelings about it. I knew that I just did it for the principal because we both have a kid and he wasn't contributing towards her, and I knew like our daughter deserves to have something, you know, whether it's $20 that I'll put away and save up for her or what. You have a baby and you're responsible for her. So that was the mentality behind me pursuing child support. And I talked to a friend who had been through domestic violence and her own share of abusive relationships and whatever. And she has 2 kids of her own. And she encouraged me to have the state pull the child support automatically from his checks. And I was like, I don't know about that. But she was like, trust me, you're going to want to do it. It's going to make your life so much easier. That way, money will never be a conversation. It will just be happening. So I listened to her, and in the end, when I got my child support ordered, I asked for the state to garnish his wages as well. And it has been such a lifesaver, honestly. So, okay, let's go back. So for the child support stuff, for child support, that was like, that was such an experience. We appeared before a magistrate, not a judge, initially, and you have to submit all of your proof of income and citizenship and all that kind of stuff, like all that legal documentation, which I did, no problem. My daughter's father, however, tried to like avoid doing all that. He just kept making excuses and like blaming me pretty much for everything. Like literally told the magistrate like, oh well, we wouldn't be here if she didn't leave me. Oh well, I wouldn't have trouble finding I would be able to find a job if I didn't have assault on female charges on my record because of her. Oh well, I lost my paperwork in the move. Just like one thing after the other. And I was so triggered sitting there listening to him say these things. Like I remember I had a notepad because again, we're virtual because of COVID. And I have my little notepad just to take notes. And at that point, I'm triggered. I can't even think straight as he's talking. And I literally just remember writing like, it's not my fault that he can't find a job. because it wasn't. And so that was just crazy. So the magistrate had to end up threatening him, like, sir, if you do not participate with the court, we will make this a trial. And my daughter's father does not like court. Okay, y'all say he didn't show up to his own hearing that he filed for custody, didn't show up. So when that threat was made, he finally complied and submitted the required documents to the court. We got the child support ordered. I asked the court to garnish his wages, or the state to garnish the wages. Done deal. Check. Next up was custody. So I filed for custody, and because the lawyer told me at this point, like, if I want to have a smoother divorce, I need to secure custody and child support, like, have that all taken care of first before I even file for divorce. So I was real motivated to, like, get this stuff out the way. So I filed for custody, and then because of my finances, I requested a court-appointed lawyer, and I don't even think I met her until, like, the day that I went to court. And so I show up to court, I'm real nervous, and I meet the lawyer, and she's real cool. She's like, okay, like, what do you want to see happen here? And I'm like, if I could get, like, sole custody, that would be great. And she's like, okay, and if he wants to work with you, like, what do you want to say? And I'm like, I'm willing to do da 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 da. And so I'm sitting in the waiting room ready to go into the courtroom, and he never shows up. Again, he never shows up. So we go into the courtroom. I'm with my lawyer. I've never been in a courtroom before because all of my proceedings have been virtual at this point. And so I go into the courtroom and I sit down, and that whole thing about, like, rise for the judge or your honor or whatever is legit. So my lawyer was like, stand up. And I was like, oh, sorry. So whatever, the judge, like, reads over the papers that have been submitted, and she's like, okay, like, what do you want to see happen here? And my lawyer is like, we would like sole physical and legal custody, and then because of my abuse allegations and the fact that I also am alleging that he does not have a stable or safe living environment, the judge did not do any visitation. She said if he wants visitation, let him file for it himself, and I was granted sole legal and physical custody just like that. So boom, child support is in place. Boom, custody is arranged. So now we can finally move forward to the divorce. I'm so excited, getting closer and closer to my freedom. It's the end of 2021 at this point. So I contact the lawyer back from the domestic violence center. I give her all the paperwork from the custody hearing at this point now, and she already has a child support order. So I'm thinking, like, let's go. Like, let's wrap this baby up. Let's get the divorce over with now. And she is like, oh, I'm really busy. I have a few people ahead of you on my list, but I'll get to you in December. Guys, let's be real. It's the holidays. So, and that had been a common pattern in my relationship with this lawyer. She was always, like, swamped or having a family emergency, or there was a holiday. And so all of those things just really dragged out the process. But at the same time, like, I couldn't complain because she's doing this work for free. Like, I couldn't afford a fancy, expensive lawyer. So my papers get finished in, I think, like, the beginning of, like, early 2022 at this point. The papers are finally done. We filed them with the court to set the divorce in motion. And now I have to serve the papers on my daughter's father. So at this point, I am not really sure how this is going to go because he moved away at this point. I didn't have an address for him. And so he calls me or texts me, and he's like, I'm going to be coming up to New York because I have a funeral. Can I see our daughter? And I never, anytime he asked to see our kid or asked to call our kid, I never deny him. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like, let's set something up. So at this point, I know where he's going to be. date and time. Like, I know where he's gonna be. And so I contact the lawyer and I'm like, yeah, he's gonna be in New York tomorrow. Like, we can serve him. And so I didn't know that there was like a set of papers that had to be submitted to the court before I could serve him. So I go to the lawyer's office. We sign the papers that I need to sign so we can file the papers in the court and then proceed to serve him. And we get to the court and we realize that the paper is like, there's something wrong with the paper. I don't remember if we were missing something or something was wrong. I don't know, but it's like 4 p.m. The court closes at 5. So we like rush back to the office, fix the paperwork, and then we like speed back to the courthouse. We file the papers minutes before the court closes. Oh my gosh. I was just like, even talking about it, it was so intense because if we didn't get the papers filed that day, I would not have been able to serve him the next day. And then who knows what happened. But we did it, y'all. She did it. I will give her props for that one. Like, literally was like, follow me to the court, pedal to the metal, papers filed minutes before the court closes. So with that, I was able to serve my daughter's father the next day when we met up. He kind of had a feeling it was going to happen. He already knew what was going on. So he was very, like, chill about the whole thing. I brought my sister with me. She gave him the papers. It is what it is. All right, he knew it was coming. So that is how he got the divorce papers. And he was like, I'll look over this when I get back home. Cool, no problem. A few days later, he texted me. He was like, oh, let me also tell you that we did a uncontested divorce just to save money and time. And the uncontested divorce is when like both parties are in agreement with the divorce. Also, we did an uncontested divorce because we had only been married for a few months and we did not acquire many marital assets. So it was just a lot easier to do it that way. When you have domestic violence involved, it can complicate an uncontested divorce because the court wants to take that seriously. But we were able to do an uncontested divorce, so he knew the divorce was happening, it was coming. For a while, he was in denial, like, about us getting divorced. He tried to act like it wasn't going to happen, like we were going to get back together. But I was like, no, I will be pursuing a divorce. I need to cut the ties. Anyways, so he gets the divorce papers. A few days later, he reads them, and he's like, I don't agree with these terms. I need to be able to see my daughter. What's this about? Da 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 da. And I'm thinking, like, sir, like, you knew we were having a divorce. You knew it was uncontested. You knew I have custody. You didn't show up in court, but whatever. So at this point, I'm like, okay, like, let's try to work something out. I'm willing to make a visitation agreement with you. And the lawyer is also agreeing at this point, just like try to work with him so that we can just get this done. There is a way to just, you know, kind of like make him give him what he wants. Because that'll be in your best interest just to get this all done. So I was like, all right, I'll try. Because at this point, like, every time we try to talk about divorce or custody, visitation, not custody so much, at this point he only cared about visitation. So anytime we would try to talk about visitation or the divorce, it would just turn into an argument, and it was a hot mess. So it was hard for me to even have those conversations with him. I would, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, in talking about domestic violence and co-parenting, I would keep track and record all our conversations. And so I remember even like playing them to my mom and like a friend, and I was like, am I bugging? Am I doing something wrong? Like, the conversation would not be productive. It would just turn into an argument. He would just start blaming me for everything, and I would just have to like cut it and be like, okay, I'll talk to you later. Hang up. Because it was like talking to a brick wall, honestly. So 2022 is coming to a close at this point. I'm disappointed because I really thought that I could be divorced by now, and now it's continuing to be dragged out into a new year, and I don't know if he's going to sign or not. At this point, I have moved out of state as well, so I'm a little nervous about that. And it's just a lot going on. So he made his decision that he wasn't going to sign the divorce papers, and I was just like, okay, it is what it is. We'll figure something else out. And so I just left it. And I also want to make clear that there was points during this legal process that I I was not always on top of stuff. I was not always sending emails or making phone calls because of my own mental health. It was just a lot for me to go through. So there was times where I was just like, you know what? This will get done when it gets done. I'll email her back when I email her back. I'll make the phone call when I make the phone call. But like right now, I can't handle this. And so I just let things be for a while. And then towards the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, he starts asking me to take him off child support. Now, mind you, the day that our daughter was born, I was literally hours after I just gave birth. Our daughter is hours old. I'm in the hospital bed. He got mad at me because my family came in town to see their first niece/granddaughter, and he wanted to wait and blah, blah, blah. So he got mad at me that my family was there, and he texted me while I'm in the hospital bed, put me on child support. I can already see how this is gonna go. That devastated me, because what kind of husband tells their wife that hours after she just gave birth to their child? So he literally told me to put him on child support, and now that I did, now he's telling me to take him off of it. I'm like, okay, well, I can't really do anything with the child support. It's already been ordered. Our divorce is in process. I can't really make any changes to any things that have been legally arranged until after the divorce. So I made a deal with him, like, you want me to do something with the child support? Sign the divorce papers. And weeks go by. He's like, please take me off child support. What's going on with the divorce? I'm going to lose my place. And I'm like, okay, well, you was homeless when I met you, so this ain't nothing new to you. And you was working 4 jobs when we were dating. So I don't understand how suddenly you're about to lose your place and you can't afford child support. It's not even that much. Like, a part-time job could take care of the child support easily. So things is not adding up to me. I'm like, okay, like, if you really want to get off child support, sign the divorce papers and then we could do something. So that's what got him to sign the divorce papers. And he tried to bring up the visitation again. So I was like, all right, fine. Like, I'll work with you. So we had made arrangements. We were in the process of making arrangements that, like, he would come down to Florida once a month to see his daughter, and I would cover part of the expenses for his travel. And he was cool with that. And we had to use very specific language as to, like, where we're going to pick up, drop off, da-da-da-da. And like midway through that, he gets in his feelings and he's like, you know, I can't afford to come out there like that. And I was just like, okay, so let's change it to every 2 months, whatever. Like, I just want to get this divorce finished. Like, whatever you want. Like, fine, whatever. So because of him wanting to be off child support and just wanting to move forward, he ends up signing the divorce papers, which state that visitation will be determined amongst the parties. We don't have a formal agreement. So that being said, I really can't speak to visitation and agreements because I've never had to deal with that, by the grace of God, honestly. So he signs the divorce papers. I'm ecstatic. My lawyer gets them. I'm thinking, like, we're done. But we're not done because there's another set of papers that have to be signed. So then she starts working on those next set of papers. And she submits his papers to the court. And so in the next set of papers, I have to state that, like, I understand I cannot be on my spouse's health insurance anymore, which wasn't a problem. But if y'all been following me, y'all know I quit my job earlier this year. And so I didn't realize that, like, health insurance was that important because, hello, I'm learning how to be an adult as I go. And I didn't see my parents on health insurance growing up. They just paid out of pocket. So I didn't know, like, this is such a serious thing. So I did not elect to keep my health insurance after I quit my job. And then I had to sign the divorce papers saying, here's my health insurance information, but I didn't have any. So my lawyer was concerned about that. And then the fact that I had moved out of state and all these things were just adding up against my favor. And so we were a little bit, well, I won't say we. I was not nervous because I had seen how God showed up for me time and time again. My lawyer was a little nervous about how things would end up. She was like, fingers crossed, I just want to let you know, I've seen this go sideways, da, 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 like all the warnings. And I understand, like, legally, professionally, she has to do that. But I'm just like, listen, ma'am, I know the judge of judges. I know the advocate. All right. God has shown up for me time and time again. And I don't doubt that I know he's going to do it again for me, period. And I was just confident in the end. At this point in the legal process, I was confident because I had seen time and time again how God had my back. So she was nervous, but I was like, okay, yeah, I heard you got it, whatever. I didn't actually say all that, but like that was my thought process. And so there was some delays in communication between me and the lawyer because, like I said, it was always something, whether it was a holiday, a family emergency. There was a miscommunication because I was like, let's try to move forward without me having insurance. And she was like, okay, I'll look into it. So I'm waiting to hear back from her. And she's waiting to hear back from me because she wanted me to get on like Medicaid. And I didn't know that. So I call her and I'm like, hello, like what's the holdup? And she's like, did you get insurance? And I'm like, no. She's like, all right, well, we'll just move forward. I didn't know, So I tried to get insurance. That was a whole nother story. Anyways, in New York, I got insurance, like no problem. And then I got a job, so we were good. But yeah, at this point, like Florida was like, oh, like you don't make enough for this type of insurance. I don't know. Anyways, so she's like, all right, we'll move forward with the papers and cross our fingers. So she sends me the papers. I have to sign them and send them back to her. At this point, my daughter's father's part in the divorce is finished. It's just up to me signing these papers, and then we submit it to the court for the final judgment. So for the final judgment, my lawyer was not feeling very optimistic. She was like, fingers crossed, and by the way, like this is gonna take months for us to hear back. So at this point, it's been 2-3 years in the making, this whole entire process. So I'm like, what else is new? You know, I'll hear back when I hear back, and I'll just continue to pray and fast until then and just believe that God is on my side with this. I don't know what else to tell you. I was really eager to get divorced so I could really just have that new beginning. I knew that my book was going to be coming out, and I wanted to make sure that just all the things that I create as an entrepreneur were mine and mine alone. And so that I was very cognizant of the fact that like if my divorce was not finalized, I would have to restart from the beginning in my current state. And you know, I was just like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but until then I'm going to continue having faith that the judge is going to sign off on my divorce. So I filed the papers, well, the lawyer filed the papers shortly after Veterans Day. And not even 2 weeks later, I get the phone call on a Monday night that the judge signed off on my divorce. And I'll probably forever get emotional about that because what? It was supposed to take months for me to get my divorce, and the judge signed off in not even 2 weeks. And my lawyer was just like, I'm honestly shocked. But I was like, I'm not shocked because I know who my father is. I know how God moves about me. God stands on business about me. That's what we saying now, right? God don't play about me, okay? So when the judge signed off, it was just huge. And apparently the court had just appointed a brand new judge just for divorces in this, like, a few weeks ago. And that's literally crazy because if I had had things my way, I would have been rushing this whole divorce process. But things happen when they're supposed to happen. Divine timing is very real. So favor ain't fair. That's it. Favor ain't fair. So that is all done. Finally, 3 years later. All right. When I tell you I got married in a matter of hours, and this divorce process has been 3 years later, SpongeBob voice. Yeah, it's been a lot, but I'm so happy it's done. And I just pray that these next several years of raising our daughter would be amicable and that we will not have to return to court. I literally just got the paperwork a couple weeks ago to refile for my child support to get it adjusted. Like, because you can get it increased as the expenses increase, but it's not about the money for me. It's not. So I'm not even going to touch that. You know, if my daughter's father wants to come see his daughter I'm more than happy to work with him to arrange that. Whenever he asks to call her, I never say no. And so I just pray that we can co-parent maturely over these next few years, and that we can both continue to grow and just be the best versions of ourselves, so that she could see that. That's really like my prayer. And so I'm really excited to be free. Like, I don't know, I didn't know where my voice went to go with that, but I'm so excited. It's so emotional. I'm so excited to be free. I'm so excited for this new chapter of my life. 3 specific things that I'm just really looking forward to. I've been dreaming again, y'all. I've been dreaming about my future marriage again, about dating again, about romance, about my, like, the dream wedding that I never had. I can, like, dream about that. And it's different, right? Because I used to dream as a little girl who was naive to the realities of life, but now I dream as a woman who has lived some life and has gotten some wisdom and who knows what she wants. And so it's just so different. And before I feel like I got into this mess because I wasn't putting God first. I was just putting what I want first. But now it's so different. My spiritual walk is so on point person. I'm not trying to say that to like to brag, because I want to stay humble, but just spiritually where I'm at right now, I'm in a good place. Me and God, we locked in. Guys, I'm seeking the kingdom first. And so I know, like, when the right person does come around again, it's going to be a totally different and beautiful experience. So I'm dreaming about love again. I'm excited to invest. Hello. If you guys know me, like, I'm about that money, okay? Like, generational wealth, multimillionaire status, like, multiple streams of income, entrepreneurship. That's what I'm about. And while I was going through my divorce, I had come into some money from the sale of my house, and I was ready to invest it, and I realized I couldn't because I was still legally married. So I'm excited to start up all the investment accounts. I'm going to grow a really diverse portfolio. So I'm really excited to get started with that and know that that money is all mine, and just build a foundation for myself and my daughter financially, independently, knowing that it's my money, period. And lastly, I'm so excited because in 2024, I'm going to incorporate my business, which was something that I wanted to do, but I was just holding off on until the divorce is final. So now that the divorce is final, we are moving forward. We're becoming a CEO and a founder in 2024. Big moves, okay? I have been studying entrepreneurship for years. I went through a coaching course with Terry Kauser, okay, Care Credit Tools. Go follow her, look her up. Her inspiration, her knowledge is on point. And she has literally, if you want to know how to start a business, go on her YouTube. You're going to find the information. So I already know what I need to do to start my business. And so it's just a matter of like me going and doing it real soon. So we're moving forward. It's a new chapter. It's a new season for real. And God is good. I would not be here without God. I got to make sure I give him all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. So as I get ready to wrap this thing up, I just want to share like 9 things that I wish I would have known prior to going through this journey legally. So the first thing is be your own advocate, okay? If nothing else, this whole process going through court has taught me to use my voice. When I was in my relationship with my daughter's father, my voice was a whisper. I literally was talking like this. I was so afraid. I didn't want to upset him. And now y'all hear me. I'm talking loud and proud, okay? Confidence. That had come back to me. And also because throughout the process, I had to ask for what I wanted. I had to use my voice. The lawyer's not answering my emails. Bring, bring. Pick up. It's me again. What are we doing? I had to not be afraid to make those phone calls, send those emails over and over and over until I got an answer. And that's what going through the process taught me. And so if you're going through the process, you have to be your own advocate. You have to open your mouth. You have to use your voice. You have to ask for what you need, because nobody's going to do it for you. 2, speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Like I said earlier, I remember sitting in the custody hearing for my daughter, shaking. And I had to tell I had to tell the judge, I'm not comfortable with my daughter living with her father. He does not have a stable living environment. The address that he uses is not a safe environment. Because I had been there, I knew. I did not want my daughter in that environment. I had to speak my truth. My voice was shaking. I was nervous, but I did it. So if you are a survivor, victim, overcomer, whatever you want to call yourself, speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. If people don't like how you talk about them, they should have treated you better, period. Number 3, find the right lawyer for you. I know that finding a lawyer can be really hard, but don't just settle. I mean, there's always options out there. I know that you might not have all the money in the world to hire the top legal team, but there's so many resources out there, especially for domestic violence victims. So tap into those resources. Yeah, I mean, it might take you a little bit more time than if you were paying for a lawyer, but you want somebody who's going to be sensitive to you and what you've been through and who is in your favor and working on your behalf. So find the right lawyer. It's so important. 4, don't stop living between your court dates. I know it can be so nerve-wracking when you know that date is coming, or you are between court dates and you're just so nervous. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how the day is going to go. And it can be so easy to just freeze, pause, shut down. But you have to keep living life, all right? Take every opportunity to experience joy and happiness. The court dates, they're going to come, they're going to go. What's going to happen is going to happen. So just make sure that you live in between those court dates. Number 5, trust God's timing. If it was up to me, I would have been divorced 2 years ago. But God had appointed the time for November 2023. And I ain't mad at it, all right? It's my birthday month. It's my breakthrough month. I'm going into 2024 a new woman. That's on God's timing. It is what it is. And I'm grateful for it. Number 6, make copies. Going to court and going through this legal process has taught me to make copies, all right? Whatever you file, whatever you sign, whatever, make a copy, okay? Always make copies just in case anything goes wrong. You want to have your set, your proof of what it is, what was done. Make copies, okay? Make copies, record conversations, take notes. Number 7, use the resources available to you. Like I just said, there's literally so many resources. If you don't know where to start, literally, like if you Google domestic violence, the first thing that pops up is the resources for the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And then you can call them, because I had to do it once. You can call them and they'll redirect you to your local domestic violence center. And on top of domestic violence centers, you can also reach out to local colleges. Sometimes they will have programs that cater specifically to domestic violence victims or even just women's justice. So yeah, and a lot of you can get resources through the court websites, and also a lot of like, I don't know what to say, like legal clubs. I don't know what it's called, but you can call like your local legal organization. It'll be like blah 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 county legal something, and you can call them and they'll tell you like different options of low cost or free options. There's like clinics you can go to if you just have like questions that you want to get sorted out. So literally there's so many resources out there. Just gotta find them, and it's not too hard to find them. So they're there for you. Use them if you need to. Number 8, get a therapist, y'all. Get a therapist, because you're gonna need it. Maybe you don't need a whole therapist, just have a support system is really what I'm saying, because it's not easy to go through all of this. Y'all just heard my journey. It was literally years in the making, and all throughout that I was in therapy, and I would not be here. Not only would I not be here, because like people want to say, oh, like you're divorced, I'm so sorry, there's gonna be a grieving process, da 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 da, it's so painful, blah 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 blah. Okay, like if I had fallen into that mentality, if I had accepted that as my lot, as my portion, I wouldn't be here today. I would not be here on live speaking to you. I would not be on my podcast speaking to y'all. I would not have a book out. I would not have spoken on a stage. I would not be in position to file my LLC. I would be depressed. I would be working a job that I hate if I accepted that whole, oh, like you just gotta grieve and go lay down. Yeah, like take time to heal. I did that, but I didn't stop at that. I kept going. I knew, like, God, you put stuff on my heart and I'm gonna work on it, and you take care of the rest. And that's why I'm here today. That's literally what I did. Like, God, you want me to start a business, you want me to be a speaker, you want me to write a book, I'm gonna do it. But I need money, and I need you to take care of the legal things, because I want the money that I make to be my own, and I want my book that I'm writing to also, I want complete ownership over these things. So God, if you're telling me to do these things, I trust that you're taking care of everything else. And that's been my mentality this year. And here I am ending 2023 on a high, in position for big things that won in 2024. Okay. And the last thing that I would say to somebody who is in court, going through divorce, going through child support hearings, going through visitation and custody hearings, is to pray. Okay? Stay prayed up. Literally all the anxiety, all the whatever, like, just talk to God about it. Tell God how you're feeling. Tell God what you need, whether that's finances or the right lawyer or whatever you need. Like, just talk to him about it. I found such an amazing scripture, and I meant to write it down so I could share it with y'all, but I'll post it or something. I want to say it was in Jeremiah or something. And it literally says, like, the Lord of hosts will plead my case thoroughly. And that's the verse that I held on to in these last few weeks. Like, the Lord of hosts is pleading my case. That's my judge. And if you're a blood-bought believer, then you know the Holy Spirit is your advocate. And so it's a winning combination. And so it's just a matter of, like, staying at peace, realizing that, like, you have more that are for you than those that are against you. And God is on your side. And he wants things to work in your favor, and he wants to bless you. And just coming into an awareness of that is really hard to operate out of a place of fear and worry when you're focused on the fact that God is for you. And so stay prayed up. Stay prayed up. All right. That's all I got for y'all. That was a lot. We've been here for an hour. But that's everything. That's what I've been through in these last few years. And I'm just grateful. People ask me how I'm doing, and I'm just grateful. Like, I don't know what other word to say or to use. I'm just grateful. And if you're going through this and you need some support, feel free to reach out to me. If you know somebody who's going through this, feel free to send this to them. Yeah. And before I hop off, big announcement, my book, Thrive, How to Let Go, Find Purpose, and Flourish When Staying Seems Easier, is now available for sale. Get your copy today, right now. X out and go to Amazon and buy my book. And if you want a signed copy, just hit me up, because I have a separate link for that. So I'm going to fulfill those orders myself. And the book will be on Barnes & Noble. And notice how I didn't say Barnes & Nobles. But anyways, the book is going to be on Barnes & Noble's. Oh my God, now I just did it. Barnes & Noble in the next few days. We're setting that up. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, for supporting me, and we'll talk soon. Go buy my book. Bye.